my home state of South Dakota, we have several public safety entities on the Firstnet network, as you heard Captain Harrison reference. However, there are also many agencies that are supported by other communications providers, which is why ensuring interoperability between public safety agencies was a fundamental objective in establishing Firstnet. So the question is, and I'll direct this to you, Mr. Parkinson, what steps has Firstnet taken or does it plan to take to ensure that its users can communicate effectively with public safety agencies that use networks other than Firstnet, the Firstnet/AT&T network?
Thank you, Senator. The key around this is the vision that Congress established back in 2012 when the legislation was passed. And what we found in the legislation is Congress was looking to deploy a nationwide interoperable network. The biggest risk we saw at the time was that you would have states that chose not to adopt the Firstnet platform. They would choose to opt out, use a different technology, and that would have to interconnect with the NPSBN, the National Public Safety Broadband Network, Firstnet. Luckily, as a result of the work in coordinating our efforts with the states and working together with public safety, every single state and territory and the District of Columbia chose to opt into the network. And as a result, we now have a single nationwide interoperable network. In terms of other carriers and other users from different systems, really anything that we have internally at Firstnet is prioritized based on local control. That means that agency, that local incident commander has the power and frankly the control to choose how to operate the system. That's for all incoming calls, data, any usage whatsoever. There's nothing that a user has to do, and there's nothing that a user has to do to allow for prioritization or preemption to occur. It's just inherent in the system, and that is unique to Firstnet. It's all on the agency. They set these needs based on their requirements. And as far as connectivity to other non-Firstnet users is concerned, all Firstnet users can call, text, send data packages, similar to if you are on one system on your commercial device and I was on a different one, we could do the same thing. We could communicate with one another. That is what happens at Firstnet. And it's all because we've based this network on global standards. That was a requirement of the statute, and that's something that we followed to the T. So if a data package comes in from one carrier, from a different user, it just works on Firstnet. We don't care where it comes from. It just works, and it has priority and preemption on the Firstnet system. So when one considers the congressional plan and the vision regarding opt-in, opt-out, we have interoperability through that. And from the technology perspective, we have full interoperability.
So how is Firstnet ensuring that all public safety agencies, regardless of the network that they use, can fully utilize the applications that are important to their mission?
It's such an important part. When we were developing the RFP, we set out to set up 16 core objectives, one of which was the development of an application ecosystem. We set up an app developers program, which will allow for folks who are interested in deploying and creating apps specific for public safety to submit those into our app catalog so that public safety users who are on the Firstnet system could then download those applications that are much more secure than we've seen elsewhere, and they can leverage them day in, day out. So currently we have just north of 130 applications on the Firstnet ecosystem, and that's growing. That's continuing. We've seen that growing over many years to come. And to be a Firstnet user, you get access to those. And that's unique. Again, having that app catalog, that is unique and from any other carrier you see across the nation. And it's something that we're very, very proud of.
Thank you. Mr. Harrison, in your testimony, you talked about the coverage of the Firstnet network in the Black Hills, which contains a lot of federal land. In addition to burdens of deploying infrastructure in those areas because of the terrain, there's also greater regulatory burdens that carriers face when building out networks on federal land. So I'm wondering maybe if you could talk about the importance of having reliable coverage in these areas and the benefits of streamlining the build out in that region.
Yes, sir, Senator. Thank you for the question. Coverage is critical. In the Black Hills, like I was saying a while ago, it's so vast. There are places you lose complete and total cell reception, even radio reception. We can lose. And so when we talk about the build out, since two of the towers that we're really looking to get built right now, the ones in the Hill City area near Deerfield and near Three Forks are on federal land, there's a little extra red tape to go through. And so, of course, that's one of the slowdowns because the building of the tower, the physical structure is not the hard part. The hard part is all the logistical stuff and getting land and property and all that stuff handled before. So I would say for us, time is the enemy, because the more times we have to have meetings or have to have another hearing on something that we can build on, that just delays the back end of what we're looking for. And the example I can give you is just a couple of days ago, we were working a homicide investigation in one of our area lakes, and there was no ability for me to communicate with the sergeants that were on scene dealing with that scene, because there's no cell coverage, and it's just the lay of the land. But I will tell you, that position those officers and detectives were standing in 2 days ago is less than 5 miles from a build site that's being planned. So the delay in getting that build hurt us yesterday, and I'm hoping that won't hurt us tomorrow. We can get that bill done as soon as possible, so that the citizens of our city can have, or our county can have the services they need.
Thanks. So thank you, Mr. Harrison. Mr. Porter, during the COVID-19 pandemic, there has been an unprecedented amount of traffic on our communications networks, and I believe we should continue to encourage more investment by the private sector in our communications infrastructure. And when building out the Firstnet network, let me ask, what regulatory hurdles have you faced, and what steps can Congress take to facilitate the deployment of reliable broadband networks?
Yeah, thanks, Senator. So the pandemic, as you point out, has shown the importance of broadband, and particularly why FirstNet was founded and its importance to public safety. It's also reinforced the need for rural coverage and capabilities, which is a foundational element of FirstNet. And so first, I want to thank this committee and Senator, you for your efforts to expand broadband coverage, particularly with the Streamline Act. Our biggest challenge, as the captain pointed out, is access. The time it takes to gain access, it's a challenge at the local, the state, and the federal level. And in particular, federal lands are a challenge to build. They can take years to get access and rights to be able to go dig the trench or build the tower. And so it's that time of approval that is the biggest challenge for us in continuing to deploy and cover rural America. And so I appreciate this committee's efforts to streamline access and approval procedures to help improve rural broadband.
Thank you. And as Captain Harrison pointed out, in a very real-world way, that those delays and the bureaucracy and red tape associated with getting all that necessary approval just really does delay the implementation of these in critical areas, the places around the country where we really need it.